Greg Salzman.
And I'm Joan Wosu.
And we are
Agile on the Go.
Agile on the Go. So we're going to start doing these things once a week, and we'll pick a topic, we'll talk about it, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about today, Joan?
Today's topic is don't go chasing waterfalls.
Okay, so what specifically are we going to kind of attack in this conversation?
Okay, so I'll just paint the picture. So I know how every company is going agile, and no one has a problem with that when it comes to writing code and testing at the team level. But the moment it's time to go to a release, everyone runs back to waterfall.
Right.
Why?
I've been working with a team recently that has been in that exact situation, right? So we go through a few sprints, we start doing some work towards a release, and then we're targeting something, and we get this work that's kind of team done, and then get it ready for production, right? And so the last one that I worked with that team was something like 2.5 weeks. So we actually had a roll. We had sprints, you know, and the work kind of rolled over from one sprint to the other as well. What kind of experience have you seen with that?
So for me, it's you keep sprinting, and then every once in a while you do a big bang release, and that's what waterfall kind of forces you to do, because it's such a huge task, different activities. So it kind of forces you to go back to the whole big bang release, where you have to now bundle code and have a huge release. There's nothing wrong with waterfall. I'm not against waterfall done right. But I think the goal of being agile is to be able to release a bit more frequently. So why do the big organizations run away from that? What is the fear of releasing frequently?
I kind of wonder that sometimes myself, because if you think about all this talk about, you know, the Googles and the Facebooks and things like that being able to deploy like every 8 seconds or something ridiculously fast. How do they get there, right? What are the things that they are doing that, say, financial institution or some other place, insurance companies or some larger organization? You know, is it whatever branching strategies they have, how they do features and things like that? Do they have their systems that are just way too big? I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe things are still a bit too big, and people need to go a bit leaner. So it's okay to say, okay, so at the team level we're lean, but I think across board we need to be a bit leaner, and then automate. I think if we could automate some of these processes, then maybe life will be a bit easier for the Scrum teams.
Right. So testing, is my experience, has been the biggest problem there too, right? So even during that release process, if you're talking about, you know, regression testing or integration that has to be done into with other systems or all that kind of thing, that maybe they're not set up for at the team level.
But even like those external integrations, those testings that need to be done, can those be done as part of the sprint? Should that not be part of the team's definition of done?
Yeah, I think so. Is 2 weeks enough time for some of this stuff?
But if you go really, really small, which you should,
right,
shouldn't 2 weeks be enough time?
Definitely. So can they go smaller, I guess, is the question or the problem, right?
Yeah. So where do they start from? You know, so we know that there's an underlying problem there. We think that the big organizations need to make some changes to head towards releasing more frequently in a more agile way than having to run back to waterfall every time they want to do a release. What is the best way to start to slowly get to that point where we want to get to?
So from a process perspective, for example, like my experience is from the development world, so and you come from the project management world. So you know, from your experience in a waterfall-ish project management kind of world, you know, what are the things that are required of the teams while they're getting ready for releases? You know, what kind of things do they need to have ready to do?
So there's a lot of tasks, you know, but are they all necessary? Probably not. I think these things have been in place for so long, no one has bothered to go look at it to see, do we really need to be doing this 100 things?
Right.
Do we have to do 100 things to get a release done? And again, I think maybe the risk or the fear is, if it's too big, then it's going to break something. But how about you go really, really small?
Right.
If it's such a small release, then even if anything changes, you can always just roll back quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see what we're doing here with this team I'm with now, where you know, we're doing some regression testing. You know, there's not so much integration, because the integration testing we're able to do actually at the team level, so it's one good thing anyway. But if we get to the point where do we need to do that regression testing? Is the work broken down, in your point, small enough where we can do that integration, have the automated testing that surrounds that, and not have to deal with it? But then there's auditing. So what about auditing?
Have those processes been reviewed in, say, 20 years?
Right. So your point.
So I don't know, and maybe
Right.
that's where people need to start from. Look at your existing processes, these things that you've put in place, which have now become blockers for the team when it comes to releases. So maybe that's a good starting point.
Sure.
Look at all these processes and start looking for ways to cut them down, go leaner, automate.
Right.
And
So
then
regardless
maybe,
of waterfall or agile, it's just really a matter of continuous improvement and trying to find those things that are actually painful and overcoming them. So asking those questions, like
Yeah.
you say, to what are the things that we have actually done over the years, and not not do them just because that's the way it has
Yeah.
always been done.
Yeah,
Oh,
agreed.
That's great.
So yeah, there you have it. So this is for all the agile teams out there who are equally as frustrated, where the organization always runs to waterfalls for deployments. Hopefully there's a starting point for people to be able to kind of move forward and be more agile end to end.
Great. Thanks, Joan.
Thank you, Greg. See you next week.